Hassan. Welcome to the Everything is Ruined podcast. This is your friend and host, Tristan. I have to say, it's time we get to the job of killing monsters. What do you say, buddy?
Do we have to kill them? Can we befriend them?
No. They all gotta die.
That seems a little speciesist, maybe.
It's the job, buddy. It's the job. You gotta just take them out. We're basically exterminators.
Yes. Who's paying for that?
It's general town folk. Usually the mayor of some place. Usually it's like a few bucks. Some gold.
To kill a monster?
To kill a monster, yeah. Hundreds,
Seem
sometimes.
Like low rates.
It really depends on the monster.
What are we defining as a monster here?
Like a very large rat, at the very least. Like an abnormally large one. Like, we're talking like this big.
Okay, well, now that a few dollars is definitely too cheap to take on a rat like that.
Well, still, it's a normal. Well, it's kind of just a big rat. So it's not like it's a,
a big rat.
threat.
I still want a decent payday for that.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
scary.
Yeah, rats are scary. It's true.
Sharp teeth.
Yeah, they'll bite you and you get
Disease.
Rabies.
Yeah.
Fear water. No joke. Anyway, point is, we're gonna hunt some monsters, and then essentially,
no we here. There's a you.
Good point.
There's no we.
Good point. You are gonna hunt monsters. Then
No.
I agree with that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Look, I like Monster Hunter, the game series.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not in real life. No, I'd be a terrible Monster Hunter.
Are you sure? You seem like you'd be pretty good at it.
Nope. No. No.
How are you with a spear?
Never held one.
How are you with like a bladed net?
Definitely never held. Don't even know what a bladed net is. Definitely never held one.
It's like a net with some blades on it. Seems pretty self-explanatory to me.
But that's not gonna. How would that even work? That's stupid.
You throw the net on the creature, it's the blades dig in and cuts it up, but it also entails it, and the more he wrestles it cuts him up more. It's really horrific, Hassan. It's terrible. I hate using it, but sometimes you gotta use the bladed net.
I don't think you do. We have guns.
We have guns? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how I've been hunting monsters for the last, 5 years of my life.
You've been hunting giant rats by hand?
Oh, yeah. Well, not by hand. But
That's... Wait, by melee weapon? That's a mistake. No,
Yeah.
use a gun. Use a
crossbow,
gun.
actually. I usually use a crossbow. And then a gun, yeah. Well, not a gun, sorry. I usually use a crossbow and then like a battle axe.
No.
Sometimes
What's
still
wrong
like a
with you?
wood splitting axe, so it's it's
that's
a lot
gonna
messier.
Get so
Yeah.
that's gross. Yeah, covered in rat blood.
It's not a glamorous job, buddy. It's not a glamorous job. But anyway,
No.
you're now my new number one monster killer.
Yeah, I'm
so.
definitely not. You need to find a new job too.
Okay, fine. Well, pays pretty well.
It really doesn't.
That's not. Yeah, that's probably true. Well, I guess I can't. I don't know. Maybe I should quit that job, but it's not paying that well. It's pretty dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
yesterday I was fighting a troll, and he threw me off the bridge, and there was like a billy goat under the bridge. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing here? You should be the other way around." And it's the whole thing.
Wait, do you mean there was a bunyip under the bridge?
Billy goat, bunyip, same deal really in this case.
No. Because it's like, the kangaroos want to cross the bridge and the bunyip is under it. Is that what you're trying to talk about? I don't know anything about billy goat. That's weird.
You know the billy goat's gruff, son. You know the.
Now I know the 3 kangaroos gruff and the bunyip.
I feel as if maybe Australia has infected your brain.
Look, that's a possibility. I'll give you that.
Like it does with anything. Anyway, this is like I say, everything is ruined. We're here to talk to you today about monster killing. I kill monsters now.
Actually, Tristan,
What?
I think there's only one monster kill. Two, sorry. We're here to talk about season 3 of The Witcher.
Oh, okay.
And kind of before we get into it, I'm gonna say possibly the last season of The Witcher? Question mark. And
Oh, okay, yeah.
the reason I asked that as a question is, so for anyone who doesn't know, The Witcher, originally a series of books by, I'm gonna butcher this last name, or sorry,
Come
first name.
on, you can do it.
I think it's just pronounced Andre?
Yeah, it is.
Andre Sapkowski,
Sapkowski, yes.
Who's Polish.
Well, he's Polish. Who'd have thought he was Polish? Yeah, exactly.
Who'd have thought that language that has DRZ as letters would be Polish.
Yeah.
Wrote those books, then they became games, then they became the Netflix TV series, starring Henry Cavill. However, season 3 is his last season. Main reason seems to be that there were some creative differences between him and the
writers, I believe.
Writers, but I think more so like the executive staff on the show.
Yeah,
I don't want to like read too much or comment too much on either side because we'll probably never truly know. I think the one thing I would say is a lot of the lower staff, you know, like the people doing stunts or making costumes or you know, the kind of people who typically you don't know their names on the show. They all speak very highly of Henry Cavill and talk about how he was a pleasure to work with on the show. So in terms of the split, I would kind of lean towards like, well, kind of seems like Henry was maybe not the bad guy here. Who knows?
I heard that.
But he's leaving. They've decided to replace him as the titular character, Geralt of Rivia, with Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah,
which
I don't hate Liam Hemsworth. He's not Henry Cavill though. I like Cavill a lot more.
Yeah, it's a real weird choice in that Henry Cavill was a big name by when he was cast as The Witcher.
Yeah. Superman.
Yeah, so, well, Superman, he had also been in, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I actually really like that movie. That's a really good
so
movie.
Good.
Shockingly, because I remember having discussions with my dad before that movie came out. It's like, who cares about The Man from like 80-year-olds or who cares about that thing? Nobody wanted a reboot of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and then watch it. I was like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah, did a good job. Guy Ritchie,
but like he had also been in the Mission Impossible stuff.
Oh man, oh my god, that fist fight in the bathroom was Henry Cavill's. He has played, as far as I'm concerned, the second best villain in the Mission Impossible series.
I haven't seen it, but I know people like him in that.
Just the last scene, he's so petty and shitty. It's so good.
Nice. So like he was a big name. Liam Hemsworth hasn't done anything noteworthy since The Hunger Games. And looking at it, the last one of those was in 2015. He was in that 2016 Independence Day, but I don't think anybody even remembers that existed.
Can confirm.
And on that, like he just hasn't really done much. And like you were saying, I mean, I have no opinion on him because I don't think I did see the first Hunger Games movie. Yeah. I forget why. I think it was just on the background somewhere. Sure. Yeah, it's fine. I don't hate those games or anything.
Like Catch Fire a little more, but it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's gonna think of him as a truly great actor or anything. So like that casting, I just don't think inspires confidence. And then the second reason I think there is potential and Netflix doesn't bother with this season 4 is it seems like season 3 didn't really catch on. I mostly blame that on, it sure does seem like Netflix just, I'm not sure what the thinking was, if they just put this out just assuming that the series is big enough that they didn't do anything else, that they could just put it out and be like, everyone's talking about it. Because on the lead up to its release, and maybe I just missed it, but I was not seeing people talking about this. I wasn't seeing, the cast doing, press junkets and interviews, and you weren't seeing those sort of like semi-promotional videos that you tend to get out of a series like this. Oh, here's the armorer to explain to you how they make all the stuff, or the props makers, how they did these puppets, like those kind of things. Wasn't seeing those as like a build-up to the season 3 coming out, and it sure did seem like after, because they no idea why Netflix did this. They split up season 3 into 2 parts that were, I think, a month apart. But season 3 didn't have like a middle of the season big cliffhanger, oh my god, unbelievable moment.
Okay.
So
just kind of like stopped and then started again.
It's not so much like stopped and started again as it is.
But did it do
like there is sort of a cliffhanger, but it's not one that it's not one I could see like people talking about and speculating about, especially when like this is the 3rd adaptation of this thing. So it's like, okay, you can just find out about what happens. I mean, I know that doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to do that.
No, of course not.
Because I know for a fact that with Game of Thrones, I once attended a party and there was a bunch of guys going around doing like King of the North thing. And then...
Wait, okay, hold on. Was this back when season 1 was out, or halfway through?
Season 2, 3. I forget what season it was.
So
they're doing this. A bunch of other people I didn't realize, because I didn't know too many people at the party, and other people talking about the books.
Yeah.
And so, like, later on, when these guys do King of the North, I'm just like, it's weird you guys are still doing that when he's dead. And they're just like, oh, this would have been pre-Red Wedding.
Okay, so it's pre-Red Wedding.
What do you mean he's dead? It's like, you guys are talking about the books and stuff. Like, you know he's dead. It's in book 2. And then like other people
watch the show.
Like, yeah, they just watched the show. We've read the books. It's like, sorry, dudes. I guess I spoiled like a 10-year-old event. I mean, So, I get it. A lot of people watching the Witcher series wouldn't know that this happens, but they definitely, when the first part of it didn't connect, seems like they kind of tried to pull a cord and be like, spend a bunch of money on advertising, and that doesn't seem like it paid off.
Too bad.
It's kind of impossible to know, because unless Netflix voluntarily reveals the numbers in terms of hours streamed, I think is how they count most shows. We don't truly know how well a show did, but it seems like The Witcher never hit number 1, which is, for this show, pretty bad.
That's like the big flagship now, is Witcher.
Like this should never be anything other than number 1, kind of the week it comes out, or even the 2 weeks it comes out, unless some other massive thing happens to come out, but they usually try and space those things out. So
now just banking on 7 Deadly Sins, man. That's all I got now.
No, that show's generic and bad.
So shitty.
But
Yeah.
it kind of seems like, okay, well, season 3 didn't do super well, and then Henry's leaving.
Yeah.
Maybe don't have the best guy for season 4, and now
Again,
the
not the
writer's
worst,
strike is happening, everything.
Writer's strike, yeah.
So I wouldn't
And
be
actor's strike,
shocked if they just canceled it and there was no season 4.
Yeah.
I fully think they are still currently committed to it.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
It's just me speculating. I'm just going,
yeah.
wouldn't be shocked if this was the final season. Which is a shame because I do think season 3 is good and it does a decent amount to steer this series towards a finale that a season 4 would allow them to not necessarily like wrap everything up because speaking of, we mentioned Game of Thrones, which I think is, Witcher is trying to be Netflix's Game of Thrones in
Yeah,
a
I
way.
mean, this adaptation is definitely.
Ye-
I can say from reading the few of the books, The Witcher is definitely its own thing as compared to Game of Thrones. I mean, it's darker, it's dark fantasy, but it's not Game of Thrones dark,
No, and it's also not trying to be as bunch of interwoven characters.
Yeah, the plots are a lot more looser. Like it's kind of like a little more like real life, where like then suddenly this person just shows up and is like, "Yeah, I've been out doing this. I've been out casting spells this entire time, over in the north somewhere, and now I'm back for some reason because I just wanted this way." That's the books.
Yeah. Yes,
Whatever.
100%. It's very much inspired by that old epics, right?
Yeah.
Where like, sometimes like a character is just gone for like a bunch of chapters and then just shows up. It's like,
Yeah.
you would not believe the stuff I did, but I'm also not going to tell you about any of it. Just take my word for it. Anyway.
Someday, Geralt, I'll tell you about all the journeys and adventures I had, but not today. That'll
we'll
be
get to
4 books from now, maybe.
some of that. But I do think that they're heading towards sort of wrapping things up with these characters, at least. I
sure.
think, this does a pretty good job of having it be this living, breathing world that you can never truly wrap things up. I think there is a fair bit of really good character stuff in this that we're finally getting, not necessarily payoff, but
Yeah.
at the end of season 1, I think it is, she basically lost her magic. She had to cast this crazy fire spell.
Yeah, right, that thing.
Yeah, and so she's still like slowly gaining her powers back and such. And so they go to this other witch and like, yep, need you to open up this portal to Aretusa. And while they're waiting, this I guess you would call him like a
Merkin?
bandit, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Has this dwarf captured, and Ciri's powers kind of let her see in the future, and this dwarf is basically like, help me, and she kind of sees his death. So she murders this bandit, and the other witch is like, oh, that guy happens to be part of this group of bandits. They're all gonna swarm, like he's got like, magic wards on him. They're gonna alert him that he's dead. They're gonna swarm on this town, and Yennefer basically just grabs Ciri and is like, we have to leave, and basically chews her out. She's like, I know you think what you did is right, but understanding chaos is a lot harder than you think, because you know what you just did. You saved one person. That entire city might get burned to the ground by these bandits. So you maybe saved one and killed 200. Congrats, kid. This is why you listen to an adult and you followed the rules that we're establishing.
I don't know that for sure. Does it happen?
It's pretty clear that what she did will result in a lot of deaths.
Well, goddamn it. Fine.
I to be honest, I always like when media does the thing of, hey, teen, guess what? Real life is way tougher than you think. It doesn't
no.
I guess I would say what I like is the inverse of anime, where anime goes like, no, if teenagers just believe in things and follow their heart to do good,
You just gotta believe
it'll be the best outcome. And I like when media is like, no, like sometimes you think you're doing the right thing and actually it's not. Like, hey, sometimes the right choice is to let a bad thing happen, and it sucks.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta let the bandits murder an entire village.
Or the opposite of that.
Or we kill the entire bandit camp. Murder them all.
There's
In
only
for
two.
a penny.
There's only two of them. They can't take that on yet.
Like, they can.
No. There's only the two of them. And again, Yennefer's.
It's Yennefer and Ciri, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got this.
When Yennefer gets her powers back, sure. Right now, no.
We just use hit and run tactics. It's fine.
But we get to see Ciri evolve over the course of this season and come to terms with the fact that, yes, she has these powers. Or like Geralt has, talks with her where she's talking about how, look, I'm effectively a queen. I'm still Princess Ciri, but my mother's dead. My grandmother's dead. I should effectively be ruler of this land. And kind of Geralt just coming and explaining to her, like, hey, just because you have power and you've done these things and you want to do good doesn't mean that'll happen. Like,
no.
Your view of what a just society is won't necessarily be the same thing. There's some good evolution there with her character. Getting into the story of it, so we start off with Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer. They're on the run. Eventually, Yennefer convinces Geralt, nope, Ciri should come with me to Aretuza. The aforementioned event happens where Ciri frees the person. They split from Yennefer. There's a weird scene. It's the end of episode 3 or 4, where Geralt is reuniting with Ciri, and it's just Ciri is running away from the Wild Hunt, which for anybody who doesn't know, the Wild Hunt is one of the main driving forces of The Witcher 3, which is really the game that put The Witcher on the map.
Man, that game. Oh, man.
So here's the thing. She's like running away from them. Geralt shows up, uses, just gonna call it Force Blast. Pretty sure it's Wold, I think is Ard, right? Yes, Ard. Basically uses Ard to like sort of ghostify the Wild Hunt.
Yeah, as you do.
Explains to her like, yeah, so that's the Wild Hunt when you used your powers earlier and you kind of split. You broke the barrier between realms. The Wild Hunt's now, aware of you, and they're going to be after you. And that's it. That's the entirety of them. It's like 4 minutes, and they don't show up again for the entire season.
No, so hold on. So they set up like the big bad. Like,
kind of
the big bad.
I wouldn't necessarily say set them up is the thing.
Well,
I would say
they kind of did.
They're there for a second and then they're gone.
Okay, let me get this straight. Let's say set them up. Let's just air quotes that. They set them up and then got rid of them in 2 seconds and went like, they're going to be after you forever, Ciri. And then they just cut to anything fucking else and then never bring it up again. Just to reiterate.
I don't. I'm not like
who's writing this show
or angry about it because the thing is it's an adaptation. So if they don't, if they want to take the story in a different way, that's fine. Because the games also went in a different direction than the books.
Yep, they did. But a bit.
So I don't hate that.
No.
But then it's just this weird thing of why is it there? What was the point of this scene? This scene didn't have to be here. It could have been bandits. It didn't have to be the Wild Hunt. It could
be you could use Godkin for all I care.
Maybe maybe season 4 they are going to come back and show up. That would be weird. A lot of what they are setting up for season 4, it just seems like if you all of a sudden tried to then make the Wild Hunt an integral part of it, it's not that it wouldn't work, but it would be a bit much, I would say.
Is season 4 more, from what I've kind of seen from the scuttlebutt of season 3? I haven't watched it yet, but are they kind of setting up more so like the big war that happens between Nilfgaard and everybody else?
Yeah, so to continue with the plot, so basically Yennefer devises a plot that she wants to have a forget what not convention, but she wants to be what?
A convent?
Yes, a convent. Thank you. So she wants to have a convent. She invites all the kingdoms and all the mages together, and Ciri and Geralt show up, join her. Trying to think of which parts I really want to focus on. I will say there's one episode where they do this sort of neat thing where when they're having basically this convent, which is basically just a big banquet, feast kind of party. They show you various scenes, and then they go back and they kind of show you various events of the night from, different angles, or hey, you thought that this conversation ended at this point, but actually it ended later, or you thought it started at this point, but you didn't get to see these 2 minutes of dialogue before it. And it's sort of a neat idea. The execution of it's so. I think a lot of the...
It's kind of like a story where basically it kind of converges into one central point, but shows different aspects, pointing like a star kind of thing.
It's a little bit more like they show you the banquet and then they're going back and fleshing it out and making you realize because here so as part of this banquet, they have discovered that somebody took this magical book about the realms, and hey, we think that they're gonna that they betrayed us all, that they stole a bunch of half-elf mages. And they think that it is the mage Stregobor. Mostly because he is a old racist man, so,
fair. Yeah, all right, go on.
And so it's just you getting to see, because they do the first half of the ball, them accusing Stregobor, finding this book, arresting him, and then they're showing you the second part of these conversations to give you all the bits that make you realize, actually, it's not Stregobor, it's actually, let me see if I can find his name. I forget it. Vilgefortz, that's it. It's actually it was Vilgefortz who was the bad guy and leading up to all this. And then in the morning, hey, this character Dijkstra, who works for King Radovid, which is a kingdom of Redania in the north. Hey, they've captured all the mages, and they're like, no, somebody here is Vilgefortz. He's working with Nilfgaard, and you need to take him down. And then a bunch of the elves show up and interrupt them because they want to retake Aretuza, and they're working for Nilfgaard. Bunch of fighting happens. Ciri ends up getting split. She goes in this tower, activates some magical powers that teleport her into a desert. Geralt gets messed up by Vilgefortz, basically can't even walk. The episode where Ciri is in the desert, it's an entire episode. It's 45 minutes. It is way too long. They should have cut that thing in half. And I watched this with 2 other friends, and we were all in agreement of like the idea of what they're doing.
Yeah.
way too long an episode. Just
you said okay.
Way too long.
You said there was a 45-minute episode, and my brain immediately went, without even you processing the next sentence, went, "Oh, that's nice and short."
It would be if there was
Netflix
more
show.
to it than mostly just Siri on her own.
Oh yeah,
To
be fair, I so even in like the games or the movie or the books, I find even though Siri's a fine character, I don't think she carries a scene by herself very well.
So I think the scenes are really good and the story
but-
they tell is really good. The problem is that it's just this one episode just all about her
Okay.
confused about where she is in this desert and what's
Yeah,
going on. And what I would have actually preferred is, so while she's in, and actually we'll talk about some of the timing of this is a little bit hard to figure out, but seemingly when she's in the desert, at the same time, Geralt has been taken to the Dryads to try and heal him because he got just so badly hurt by Vilgefortz. He can't even, stand and move or anything. And if they had instead done like either an hour and a half episode or even just tighten both them up and just made an hour episode and kind of interspersed the journey of these two characters and the hardships they're going through.
That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
That would have helped more rather than just having this one uninterrupted just series segment. It's like, okay, this sucks.
Do they go for anything interesting like one unbroken shot kind of thing or anything like that to kind of
It's more of a
clarify it?
Siri questioning, like, am I really in this desert? Am I going insane? Because while she's in the desert, the
Good question.
ghost spirit of the elf queen who tried to lead her people to freedom kind of ends up talking to her and guiding her a bit.
Sure.
So it's more that it's not like it's a single unbroken shot. They're not going for that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But and so basically where the sort of season ends, and we've glossed over a lot, but where it effectively ends is the Dryads kind of get Geralt back on his feet, and he's now going to go search for Ciri. Ciri ends up she kind of passed in the desert. These bandits found her. I forget their name, but it's like a bunch of thieves basically find her. Yennefer, she decides, hey, even though almost all of the mages get killed in the fight in Aretuza between them and the elves, I'm gonna restart the Mages Guild. I forget what it's called. I think it actually might be Mages Guild.
I think that's the case. Yeah.
And then we also get this kind of bombshell moment where it is Vesemir, aka the
Vesemir.
White Flame who dances on the graves of his enemies.
Yep.
I want to say
That's
is
his
his
name.
title.
It's a good fucking title.
It's him talking about, yes, my queen is coming home. His queen being his daughter. The good old medieval times. And
I love the
Vilgefortz
restaurant.
is there like, haha, yes, I brought home your daughter. And it's actually this girl who was a victim of Vilgefortz, who he had kidnapped and was doing these sort of test experiments on and made her think that she was Ciri. And that's kind of where the season ends. One of the characters that we didn't get to talk about is oh god, what do they call Dandelion? Jaskier.
Jaskier.
Jaskier is interesting in this season. They make him a little more important, whereas before his actions were not so much important. It was largely his words. In this one, his actions are pretty important. A lot of things that he does, so he ends up potentially falling in love with oh my god, why can't I think of his name? The second son of Redania, who eventually becomes the king.
You stumped me.
I'm looking at the names here, and I cannot find him.
Philivandrel? No, it's not him.
No, Philivandrel is a wizard.
Yeah, that's
mage.
Him. Yeah.
Wow, Wikipedia. Why is he not listed for season 3? That's annoying.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now. Kahir? No, not Kahir.
No, but he ends up like semi falling in love and then realizing he's kind of betraying him, but then he helps and saves him. He does a bunch of stuff to help Geralt and get him back on his feet and stuff. But my main complaint about him is they don't have a good song for him this season. Like season 1, you had Toss a Coin to a Witcher. Season 2, you had Burn, Butcher, Burn. Season 3, they just don't give him a real banger, and that's disappointing. My biggest musical complaint about season 3, though, is that at the Coven, during the ball, there is a character clearly playing a hurdy-gurdy. I did not hear a hurdy-gurdy in the music, and that is disappointing.
Oh, come on.
Hurdy-gurdy sounds super cool.
Yeah, okay. Like if you have a hurdy-gurdy in the scene, you gotta have it in the song.
Yes, give me more hurdy-gurdy music, and they did not. And that, so they do have a bunch of music in this episode. It's just not a really Yaskier hit. That was disappointing.
Yeah.
Also, I don't love how they've made Dandelion look where
he looks bad in season 3.
The best way I can describe him is he looks like the kind of guy who plays in a bad rock band and still thinks it's cool to kiss ladies' hands.
Yes, I'll agree with that one. To me, he looks like the guy, like the kid you knew in high school who like hit puberty a little too fast and grew everything out a little too quickly.
Yeah, okay, sure. Except he's
Almonds.
wearing a leather trench coat, which I don't love that look on him.
So the guy in high school that grew up too fast.
But he is good. The actor does a fantastic job as him.
Yeah, he's great. He's good. He's a good actor.
Go back to a complaint I mentioned earlier. Probably my biggest issue with season 3 is, and this has always been a bit of an issue with the Witcher series, but it is difficult to tell the progression of time and difference in time between events, or the relative time between events, as well as the placing of the characters. So season 1, I think a lot of people probably didn't realize this, that when you are seeing a lot of the Geralt and Yennefer stuff in season 1, it is like 150 years before all the stuff you're seeing with Ciri.
Yeah, totally, yes.
Because they do mention that, mages live a long life, and so do Witchers. But I don't think the show ever made that super clear that, hey, these aren't, happening 5 years before Ciri, or, a brief amount of time before her kind of stuff leading up to Nilfgaard destroying, I forget her home country again.
No, really, it's something else. It's near review.
Yeah. But that was always unclear. But in season 3, sometimes they try Sintra. Thank you. Yes. Because it's the lion of Sintra, and then she's the lion cub of Sintra.
Yeah, she's lion cub. Yeah, exactly. It's cute.
But it's stuff like at one point, Jaskier is in Redania, kind of playing for a party for the king's brother.
Right.
And then it cuts to, he's met up with Geralt and Ciri. Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer, I think. You kind of go, how far did they... what is the time span and difference we're talking here? Was that 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months? It's kind of hard to gauge some of it. We vaguely know that it's at least from the end of season 2 to the start of season 3, roughly 4 months, because Yennefer does have that line about this is our 4th home in as many months. But just in general, it's hard to... And I'm somebody who I played Witcher 1 and I watched a fair bit of Witcher 3. I haven't read any of the books or played any of the other games than 1. So I at least have some vague ideas around the layout of the world, the planet, let's call it.
Yeah.
But it's still, even then, hard to know with the show. Like, so where exactly are we in relation to other places? And
always a little difficult, I find. For The Witcher, just in general.
It sucks because it's probably really hard to do that in a fantasy world, other than constantly just kind of rolling out a map and pointing to it, and going like, this is where we are, and we need to go here.
Yeah.
And having it be a little ham-fisted. It's the brilliant thing about the Game of Thrones opening is that it allows you to 100% understand this is what the world looks like. This is where the characters are. When a character says, we're going from King's Landing to the whatever it was, the like twin towers or I forgot what they call it, the twin like bridge towers or something where the Red Wedding happened. It gives you really good context for that, and it's super smart, and it's probably really hard in any other show to be like, well, we can't just do the Game of Thrones opening now. I guess we just constantly have to have characters looking at maps, but also that doesn't seem that unrealistic in a world like that to be like, of course characters are always looking at maps. How else are they going to get around?
Very true. The one other show that kind of does it pretty well, Shadow and Bone, even though I kind of bounced off season 2, it got kind of weird. There is a lot of like notable map usage in Shadow and Bone to kind of like make sure that where they are at. So like, okay, like, the majority of the conflict is over here in the east. Over here in the west is like a big like part of the world where they don't bother with anybody. Down here is where like the ravens are and all this stuff. The crows are, I should say. So stuff like that where they will note where everything is at, and you'll see it on the map, and sometimes they'll even show just the map just to kind of give you an idea of like what you're looking at. For The Witcher, though, I think the problem they might run into, or they may have run into, just in terms of the way this show can be and the way it should be written, is that The Witcher books are all in anthology. So as things kind of move, like Geralt is just going from place to place to place, and it's just like, oh, this could be over here. There's a river here, sure. This could be connected to this village down this way, but we'll never know. So the games did a decent job of kind of mapping the place out, and Andres
games have to, right? Because you get a map.
You have to, yeah. But Sapkowski also mapped the place out as well. So
I wish that it made it clear of... So going back to that sort of Ciri episode when she's in the desert and Geralt is messed up and getting help by the Dryads.
Right.
I have no idea exactly what the time relation between those two things are, because Geralt got messed up at Aretuza, got taken to the Dryads, and then I'm not sure if he was there for... They might have mentioned it. I honestly can't remember if they said, like, oh, he's been here a week, he's been here a month, whatever it is. I think it's at least, a couple weeks. And it's like, okay, well, I don't think Ciri was in the desert for a couple weeks, so is it... like Ciri got out of the desert on, say, like the 4th day of the month, and Geralt wasn't leaving the Dryads till the 29th? Or is it like, yeah, they both got up and were leaving the same day? Like, it just...
Time's a weird soup.
And I realize it's now considered sort of gauche to have, text on the screen that would tell you, such and such a date and year, or, literally says 2 weeks later at the same time,
No, they should bring that shit back. It makes things easier to parse for the audience. But
yeah, and it's not even just it makes it easier to parse, because it honestly doesn't really matter for the story too much if these two events are happening at the same time, or if Geralt is taking longer to kind of heal than it took Ciri to kind of get out of the desert and that.
Yeah, sure.
Because it is a big world where, it takes time to travel a distance, and Geralt doesn't even know where Ciri is, so it's gonna take him a while to find her in that. But it would help give that context of how far are these characters actually traveling.
Yeah, it would.
Right. Hey, if it says 2 weeks later, okay, well, they've traveled quite a distance then, versus 3 days later. Okay, well, they haven't traveled that far then. So I wish it did a better job at that. The other big complaint I would have is I wish it did a better job either going into detail or not just hinting at some of the world stuff, like the Wild Hunt, or what was another one that they there was something else that they touched on. It was just like, like the conjunction. They vaguely talk about the conjunction, but they never really talk. They not that I remember, at least. Maybe season 2 or season 1 had more detail, and I'm just forgetting. But I don't really ever remember them specifically talking about how, yes, there was this thing called the conjunction where our world kind of ended up like opening a portal with the elf world, and there's all these things. Like they certainly talk about the history of humans kind of showing up, and basically, not really a parallel, but certainly in a similar way to the Europeans showing up to the Americas and kind of destroying and taking everything. I just wish it was a little bit better at some of those world elements. I will say I do really like season 3 though. I think my favorite moment, and it's such an insane moment that they have it, is so during the fight with the elves in Aretuza,
right,
kind of seems like the mages are losing, and then, oh my god, what's her name? I need to find her name here. Is it Istrid I'm thinking of?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it's Istrid I'm thinking of. She ends up basically just calling down and shooting lightning at them, and they're all kind of suppressed. But then as her powers start to wane, like her hair literally starts to turn white, no, it's not Istra I'm thinking of. That's a guy. God, I can't think of her name, and that's gonna Tisea. Tisea is who I'm thinking of.
Tisea, okay.
As she's kind of failing, and the elves are about to make their push, the mages are just like, this is gonna be our last stand. Stregobor shows up. Who? Stregobor, you were not meant to like in this show. He's a jerk. He's an awful bigoted person too.
Yeah, Stregobor's awful.
But he shows up and he basically says to like Yennefer, no, let me take care of these elves. I've been waiting a long time to get to murdering some elves. He just used this fire magic to just nuke most of them with fire. You're just like, wait, am I really about to cheer for Stregobor for being like, heck yeah, old racist guy, murder all these elves?
Guys, should we have called it Stregobor a long time ago in this
and like,
we know he's a racist, so we don't associate with him, but
Yeah, they're not trying to be like racism is cool or anything. It's just this really funny scene of like, oh, the racist kind of saves the day.
I mean, you know, power and all that, doesn't really care who has it. So,
right? Yeah, it's a dumb, funny scene. I'm slightly confused. I think he's dead, which is weird because he's definitely not dead in at least the games. He was certainly alive after this event.
I mean, he wasn't.
It's fine if he's dead, right? Again, it's an adaptation. They should do their own thing.
Time weirdness. Yeah, exactly.
Combat, really good in this. There's some fantastic fights. Some real creative monsters too. There's like I don't know how to describe it other than like it's like a human centipede but worse that Geralt has to fight.
Okay.
It's okay.
Does it try to integrate Geralt into his human centipede-ness?
No. Did you ever play
awesome.
Inside?
Yeah.
The indie game?
Yeah. The giant
It's
human
like
ball.
that. It's kind of like that, yeah. And it has to murder that, and you're like, oh, this is gross and disgusting.
Yeah,
but
that's the one thing I like about The Witcher, where over everything that is out there, the fact that Geralt just fights such nasty shit.
Fights nasty stuff.
Nasty.
I will say, I do wish at least, and I understand why they don't do this for every fight. But I do wish one time we got to see him just full Witcher, where, okay, I'm going after a creature that, you know, like, you know, oh, if he had to fight like a Leshen, but he doesn't know it's a Leshen. He just gets called in. Okay, it's this creature that, you know, okay, well, looking at these markings, looking at the things he's doing, I think it's a Leshen. And this season kind of has a moment like that where they're on this boat and Ciri is talking about, oh, there's this monster in the lake. This is what I think this monster is. This is what it's weak to. This is how you fight it and take it down. But I wish we had something where it's, you know, Geralt shows up, figures out, okay, well, it's a Leshen. Well, if I'm going to fight a Leshen, I'm going to want this kind of, you know, potion, right? Something that's going to protect me from its poison or, you know, whatever sort of inherent risks it has. Well, that means I need to go out and catch these things. And then, okay, now I'm also going to do that whole, I forget what they call it, but, you know, like the ritual where it's like, hey, you just kind of have to sit there and meditate. Yeah. I just wish they had like one single fight like that where, it's Geralt really has to prepare for it. He's got to research, he's got to gather materials and do it. Again, totally understand why they don't do it for every fight. That would not play super well for a television series. Like, you spent 15 minutes of this show just having him doing, like, prep work.
To be fair, that's how Supernatural was.
No, Supernatural was all about two brothers kissing. I've seen enough Tumblr to know what that show was about, Tristan.
Yeah, you maybe you want to... Sure. Anyway... Yeah, I so in season 1 they have a really good one with the werewolf fight where he actually did like research that kind of stuff.
That was brief though. That was like a 2-minute montage, right? I'm talking. I want a drawn out moment. That'd be awesome.
Like the beauty of like the Witcher stuff is that like you can kind of play detective, of like, okay, it's sort of a whodunit because you get to the scene of the crime where like, okay, this monster's been killing my chickens and it terrorized my son. Okay, well, it could be this, and this. Let me see the markings. Did it leave any scat? Stuff like that. So, like, going through and, like, Witcher 3 does it really well when you start trying to, like, find and, like, research, like, monsters in areas that are just normal jobs. Well, there's a really good one in the season, in the first book. It's, like, the third story or whatever it is, and maybe is the one they played off for the season 3 with Ciri and then the boat. But there's a good one where like Geralt's on a boat with some dwarves, and
that wouldn't be this then.
All right, and then and he's basically like sailing across on a ferry, and they're like, "Oh, Geralt's here! Like that's cool. What are you doing here, man?" He's like, "I'm hunting a monster," and like, "Oh, it's in the water. I'm gonna go kill it." Do you know what it is? It's this kind of thing. And they're like, oh, because we saw a different thing. And he's like, okay, it could be two different things. I brought the wrong potions. Shit.
Yeah, no, that's not this. He doesn't do any potions in this fight.
Whatever.
It's Ciri who mostly does the fight against the creature, but
that's fine.
That's just one small complaint about the series, because the combat is fantastic, and you were talking about earlier, like Henry Cavill insisted on doing all of his own stunts.
He's really good at them. He's so good at stunts.
My headcanon, me and my friends, our headcanon with him is that just like he shows up to the sets with like his own sword and outfit, and it's like, no, okay, Henry, you're not actually Geralt. You understand this, right? We know you really like the books, but you're not actually him. That's a sharp sword. No, Henry, put down the sharp sword. Put down the sharp sword, Henry. You need to use one of our props.
Running with it. I was running with it.
Yeah, no, God damn it. Yeah, that's our headcanon. He's just spending his week, going back to our intro, he's just spending his weekend going around like, got any monsters to slay? What?
You got any monsters?
What's this weirdo? To wrap things up. Yeah. Season 3. Really good. Will be interesting to see if we get more Witcher.
I don't know.
Definitely, if anybody was into season 1 or season 2 or the games or anything, I still recommend the show. It's a really good adaptation, and across the board, fantastic acting, music, cinematography,
cool.
Just everything about it. Very well done.
The one thing that makes you want to watch season 3 specifically is they fixed the Nilfgaardians outfits. So it's no longer look like they're from fucking like Lex.
No, I preferred the old ones. Okay,
Dude, there's no way.
I think that looked unique.
It did. I agree. Okay, to be fair, it is very unique. Yeah, I'm using very unique. It is a unique look. However, my God, a big thing with The Witcher is just how much things are supposed to look like medieval Europe. Like
that's what medieval Europe totally looked like.
Yeah, with the fucking
they all had
veins
like
in
scrotum sack. Yeah,
scrotum sack armor. Yeah, with the veins everywhere. Yeah, no,
yes.
Andrzej Sapkowski was vehemently about like, this is medieval Europe. Everybody's wearing, like, if you're in war, different color banners, your clothing matches, all this stuff, but armor's kind of piecemeal. Like, he does a really good job of kind of like describing those things. And even in the games, they're like, things look a very specific way, like in medieval Europe, bright colors, all this shit. And then like season 1 and The Witcher comes by, and it's just like, scrotum sack looking Nilfgaardians get bent. And it's like, I know, like, they're they're evil, like they're the black and gold faction.
Okay, but Tristan,
what?
Nilfgaard, more like Milfgaard.
Whoa! Yeah, all right, you win. Good point. Milfgaard it is.
On that note, why don't you tell people where to find us?
I don't want it anymore. You can go far away from us. we just ruin The Witcher. You should go to our Twitter page, which is at EIFNIR. That's a place you can go to yell at us about how much you like us calling Nilfgaard Milfgaard.
No, that's fair. You should yell at us for that one. We deserve it.
Specifically this song. Yell at him. You should also go to our, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube video page, where you can like watch and review our show, and maybe like and subscribe or something. One of those things. And you find our show and on a battlefield, and it is like half dead, barely living. You nurse that show back to health. And you send it back out to your friends for them to listen to as well. Because eventually that will turn into some sort of like either a bodkin or I believe a Gromolkin. Yeah, so that's the thing. So you don't want that to happen. That's why you listen to it. You make sure to listen to it. Because, like, if you don't, it will come back as a revenant and murder your ass. So, like, you know. Just saying. You gotta listen to it. You should also go to our friends who's DJDane.com. The guy that does our music, DJDane.com. Go there, listen to his great music, and just, like, I don't know, maybe, like, join him in some monster slaying or something. I'm sure he does that.
Does he?
I assume he's in, BC somewhere? There's a lot of monsters there. A lot of weird folklore.
I was going to say he doesn't talk about it, but maybe, it's just so commonplace. It's like, well, why would you talk? I don't talk about taking the trash out, because everyone just does that. So maybe he's like, well, everybody just fights monsters. So why would I talk about it?
I assume everybody, every day, has to fight a hodag when they're in BC.
Yeah,
one hodag a day.
Yeah. That's my understanding of BC.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for the show. Tune in next time for another ebullience episode of Everything is Finally is Ruined. See ya.
See ya.
Say it. You are correct. You win.